An Ill Wind by Lionel Walfish. Everything was just about as perfect as it could be. The silverware, placed carefully on the red and black linen placemats, gleamed luxuriously under the overhanging stainless steel and glass fixtures. The crystal wine goblets sparkled, throwing fiery patterns in all directions of the dining area. Edith Barrington surveyed her apartment with glowing admiration. Every piece of furniture, so carefully chosen, was a sheer delight to the eye. The moss-green antique velvet sofa, with its huge overstuffed pillows, the Jacobean coffee tables, the white faux bearskin rug, each article softly complementing the other. From the huge windows that encompassed the length of her apartment, she gazed out at the city twinkling below and breathed a sigh of self-satisfaction. Edith Barrington was self-made, beautiful, and envied. She smoothed her long black hair back from her forehead and glanced at her profile in the oval mirror hanging in the floral wallpapered hallway. She gently touched her face, tracing a cheekbone with the index finger of a long tapered hand. Her porcelain-like skin responded, bringing a light flush to its texture. Suddenly, the automatic buzzer sounded from the kitchen stove, interrupting Edith's semi-trance and letting her know that the toasted French rolls would soon be ready. Edith had taken great pains with this particular dinner. The moule marinier had required particular preparation. She'd spent the better part of an hour scrubbing the mussels with a wire brush, steaming them in garlic and wine, and then straining the liquid through a linen napkin. The romaine salad was much easier to prepare, and she smiled as she checked the vinaigrette sauce, knowing it was sure to please. The chocolate mousse was being chilled in the freezer, and all that was left to do for her was bathe and dress. Before heading to her marble bathroom, she decided to sample one moule, and then another. Oh, yes, they were perfect. How she loved to feel these succulent little delicacies slide deliciously down her long, lovely throat. She couldn't resist and popped one more into her waiting mouth. As Edith soaked herself in the sunken marble bathtub, she lifted one leg high in the air, reminding herself of how she'd instructed her favorite model, Babette, to raise her leg for the floral bath oil account at the agency. Edith watched the soap cascade down her own silken skin. Surely her own leg, she thought, was even lovelier. Max Benson, short, fat, and balding. Edith chuckled to herself as she thought of how he'd once referred to her as Edith the Iceberg, or so she'd been told. This was why she had decided to forego a regular cold business luncheon and invite Max, president of Taylor & Benson, to her home for a quiet dinner, cocktails, and wine. Even after his first martini, she imagined, Max would remain uneasy. The second would do nothing to relax him. She pictured him clumsily knocking over his martini glass while reaching for a crudité. A small stuffed green olive would roll along the glass coffee table, plopping onto the thick hair of the white bearskin rug beneath him. How awkward he would feel. The moule marinier would be next. She would set the steaming silver tureen down on the dining room table, watching him stare in horror at the shells. Daintily, she would lift a shell from her bowl and with a spoon slowly, so that he could try to follow her example. Max would make a fumbled attempt, only to have the moule slip from his grasp, landing back in the bowl with a crash, splattering the crystal and silverware with hot, yellowish broth. How embarrassed he would feel. Oh, poor Max. Edith applied a few drops of lavender oil to the bath. She loved to entertain in her sky-top home. She'd always felt a sense of superiority at these times, and very much the Vogue magazine cover lady, those women who visually bolted from the newsstands, surpassing all others. Edith toweled herself dry in front of the reflecting floor-to-ceiling mirrors and moved to her dressing room. She decided on a long, white crepe hostess outfit, halter top and cinched at the waist with a huge rhinestone-studded belt, at least 4 inches wide. The silk felt good against her freshly scented skin, and she was proud of the fact that she did not require a bra. Max was due to arrive in 10 minutes, which gave Edith just enough time to quickly review the details of the contract she'd prepared for him to sign, a contract that was to give her agency exclusive rights and under the most generous of terms. She returned the document to its leather-bound embossed dossier and set it on the mahogany writing desk. Then she moved to the kitchen, where she quickly swallowed just one more delectable moule before sitting back languidly on the living room couch while waiting for Max to arrive. Max Benson felt his heart racing. He checked his watch. He would have much preferred having a lunch meeting at some place downtown. As the cab sped through the darkening streets, he stared out the window and thought of the woman he was about to meet. Edith Barrington. What a name. What a woman. The few times he'd encountered her at her agency, she'd never seemed quite real. She was one of those look at but don't touch things, a type of goddess with a class of breeding Max could never hope to attain, almost an inhuman being, as it were. As successful as he was in business, all his insecurities crept back when faced with a woman of this stature. Max wiped his brow. He had a sinking feeling that this evening was not going to go well for him. After getting out of the taxi, Max entered the well-appointed lobby and announced himself to the porter, who in turn telephoned Miss Barrington's apartment, informing her of his arrival. Taking the high-speed elevator, Max found himself in no time on the 35th floor and tapping the gold ring that hung from the lion's mouth door knocker of the suite. As Max was wiping his brow one last time, the large oak door swung open, and there Edith stood, exactly as he'd imagined her. She was untouchable and perfect. Max felt his face turn scarlet red as Edith extended her long, bare arm and took his hand in hers. She was about to speak while ushering him into her apartment when suddenly she stopped and paled. Later on, when Max would recount that moment to everyone he knew, he would tell them how Edith's eyelids fluttered ever so gently just before releasing the loudest and most explosive fart he'd ever heard.